Hi there, I'm Cameron DeLand, and I'm recording this video for MRTS 1330. It's what part of a funeral I'm most interested in. I would have to say one of the things I'm most interested in is the removal process. I've always wondered how the removal technicians go about it because I've always wondered, like, is there a larger person? They have to have more people, or do they know that coming onto site? Um, just things like that. And I actually interviewed for a transfer position, and I unfortunately wasn't hired because I didn't meet the age requirement for the insurance. I just wasn't old enough to drive the vehicles under the insurance policy. Um, but I do get to go on a ride along with the funeral home that I'm going to be working with, and I'm pretty interested in how that's going to go because I never have seen it firsthand, but I'm really excited to be able to get that experience. Another thing about funerals, and probably the biggest thing, is the embalming part of it. During my interview, I was taken into the prep room. They let me see where they prep the bodies for either cremation or open casket, closed casket, things like that. And I got to see the machine that does the embalming, and I was confused because I didn't know it was such a small machine that does such a big job. But I've always wondered how it works, getting the fluids into the deceased person, and how quickly it goes, and how if there's any things you have to tackle before you embalm someone, and just things like that. And I also wondered about, in terms of like an open casket funeral, how it goes if someone has, for say, had an autopsy. And I know for autopsies, um, I've studied a lot of autopsies and seen a lot of them, and they kind of open everything and take out everything, and they make cuts all over the body. And I just wondered how you make it look like they didn't have that done to them, just because it's such an extensive process of um, studying that body, and then putting it all back together and slapping it into a casket with clothes on and letting the family view it like nothing happened. That has always really fascinated me, and for the first time, I believe it was about 5 months ago, I attended my first open casket funeral, and it was weird. It was a little shocking I was talking to my boyfriend who I was with, and we were discussing how there's a person up there, but they're not alive, but they're just laying there. So it was kind of a shock to me to see that firsthand about, it wasn't someone I personally knew. I was just a guest, but seeing the family interacting with their loved one, even though they weren't alive, was really interesting. And one more thing that has just started to interest me since I've started this course is working with different families of different religions and different customs. After receiving some of my textbooks, I started reading, and I didn't fully realize that there were so many different customs for every religion that you might have to go through. And every single religion has its own process and has its own funeral service, and just a lot of stuff that goes into it for each religion. And I never really thought about that because I am personally not religious myself, but I never thought about how I would have to deal as a funeral director working with a Jewish family or a Catholic family, and how those two things would differ. And it makes sense, but there's just a lot of different things that I didn't even think about. Like, some religions don't allow cremation, or for a veteran funeral, there has to be a certain set, like a plan there has to be like a lineup of this person here and this person here, and there's a set schedule for everything, and I thought that was really, really interesting, and I'm really excited to be learning more about everything because all of this stuff just really interests me, and I can't wait to be able to work with families who maybe they don't share the same beliefs as I do, but being able to watch it firsthand, I think is going to be really awesome. Not awesome. That sounded bad. It's it's going to be just really cool to experience that, not experience a funeral. So, yeah, that was my video.